in the most remote kingdom in the world, explorers find thousands of mysterious caves. Their dark portals beckon with the promise of a glimpse into a lost world. Now a team of climbers and scholars set out to reach them for the first time. Inside, they find small cities carved in stone, and there discover unimaginable treasures.
This is an absolutely extraordinary collection. It's a complete mess.
But the discoveries revive an age-old struggle between two faiths and stir fears that looters may have reached the treasures first.
It's literally money laying around, which is the awful thing.
They came to study these caves, but now they're in a race to save them before more looters come. Or worse yet, the caves crumble into oblivion. The struggle to reach these caves is daunting, especially for non-climbers.
I've never worn a harness before.
The contents of the caves are astounding.
I understand that there's some human remains up in this cave. Over.
It looks like it's obviously a burial chamber.
They believe the caves hold ancient evidence that this was once a sacred valley, an earthly paradise some have called Shangri-La.
This program was made possible by the Virginia Wellington Cabot Foundation and by contributions to your local PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
In the desolate mountain borderlands of Nepal and Tibet, there is an ancient Himalayan kingdom beyond the reach of the modern world. Hidden in a valley surrounded by the world's highest peaks. It is called Mustang. The locals call it the Kingdom of Lo, and their monarch is the 25th in direct descent from the first king of Mustang, who founded the royal lineage nearly 600 years ago. For thousands of years, a trade route has passed through the kingdom, one of the few pathways across the roof of the world, and a critical link between India and China. But Mustang is a kingdom with a mystery. Hundreds of unexplored cave complexes dot the cliffs that guard the great Kali Gandaki River. The enigma of the caves has pulled Himalayan climber Pete Athens here repeatedly. For more than 2 decades, he's been a student of Tibetan Buddhism, and he summited Mount Everest 7 times.
This is really, in many ways, my greatest expedition. Climbing Everest is nothing like this. People know every inch of Everest. To have the opportunity to go into these caves, the first people to go in over 1,000 years, is a remarkable privilege. So much information about Tibet and all the Himalayan states could be in any one of these caves, and it has not been discovered, and it's lying there waiting for someone to find a way in and document it.
The caves have never been explored because Upper Mustang is a restricted area of Nepal. Until recently, it was closed to the outside world. Even today, only 1,000 foreigners per year are allowed into Mustang's forbidden zone. 2 years ago, working in concert with the government of Nepal, Pete and project leader Brot Coburn and an elite team of explorers finally gained access to the first of Upper Mustang's caves. Their discoveries made news around the world. Priceless, centuries-old wall paintings adorn sacred cave shrines.
It's just unbelievable. I wonder how long it's been here.
Hidden cave temples are hewn into the mountainsides. In another cave, a masterpiece nearly 25 feet long. And the most stunning find of all.
There's some incredible things in this next room, Pete.
Oh my God.
A giant room filled with texts, piles of texts.
Their discovery of an ancient library forced them to confront a dilemma. With no permission to remove anything from the caves, the folios would have to be left unprotected until the team could return with permission. Now, 1 year later, Pete and Brat have returned to Mustan to rescue the texts.
We have a total of about 48 horses, 12 porters, 10 people to help us with cooking and organization, tent setup, some archaeologists, some climbers, some filmmakers, and some friends of all of the above, so it's quite a large group.
With a dream team of climbers and scholars, they'll preserve the ancient library, document the paintings, and try to explore more caves, all with just a month on their permit. From their starting point down valley, they'll trek some 60 miles to the royal city of Lomantang. The researchers are pursuing answers to an even bigger question. For 100 years, European adventurers have searched for an Eastern utopia, an earthly paradise they've called Shangri-La. Oxford University anthropologist Charles Ramble has studied these Tibetan ideas for 28 years, living amongst the Mustan people, speaking their many dialects, even mastering their ancient customs. The concept of utopia isn't exclusive to the East.
It's certainly present in many religions. In the Christian faith, it's something that we have to look forward to. Paradise lies in the future. In the case of Tibet, there are earthly paradises, and for certain groups of Buddhists, there is the sacred land of Shambhala, which could actually be the etymological origin for Shangri-La.
The idea of Shangri-La was popularized in the West by author James Hilton, whose 1930s book and film, Lost Horizon, introduced the idea into popular culture.
But this fascination with Tibet as being a land where some kind of special sacred life went on away from the day-to-day living we're used to is something that's continued right down the centuries.
To the people living in these valleys today, these kinds of earthly paradises are real. They call them bayuls, which means hidden land, where one can find enlightenment and peace.
The highest concentration of these bayuls is in the Himalayan region. So the idea of a place where one could go and hide and live peacefully and live a long time is certainly present in the Tibetan tradition.
On their second day in Mustan, Charles has a chance to show Pete how caves are linked to the pursuit of enlightenment. This cave is still in use today. It's the venue for a rare and sacred practice, a voluntary retreat into darkness to meditate.
The practitioners will stay in here 49 days, practically naked. You start to hallucinate after a few days, and the trick is to realize that these are just hallucinations before the real visions and experiences come along. But the last chap to do a retreat in this cave, after about a week, I think he had to be taken out because he was in quite bad shape.
Hallucinations
Yes.
of something frightening,
Yeah.
something demonic.
It's a kind of self-imposed sensory deprivation. The ultimate goal, of course, is enlightenment. And the whole purpose of these meditations is for the mind to unite itself with its own nature. People will come from the village every couple of days and put food in an L-shaped hole in the wall, so you don't actually have any direct interaction with the people who come to feed you. In this tradition, it's done for 49 days, but there are some people who will go into retreat for their entire lives. They'll just stay in there until they die.
Okay, so you see Chris with his arms raised, correct?
That's correct. He looks to be in the best position.
2 days further up the valley is a cave where they'll test their gear.
If you see anyone, let them know that there might be some pretty big rocks coming down.
Take care of it.
Thanks, Charles.
Chris Erickson is an alpine climber and photographer. He'll photo inventory each cave. Renan Ozturk is an artist. His sketches of cave layouts will be a critical part of the analysis. He's also a world-class climber.
As climbers, we search for the steepest, cleanest lines, and this is pretty much the opposite of that. Just crumbling, mud-drip sandcastle formations. You can barely breathe as the dust blows up the wall and surrounds you. Just horrible choss climbing.
Choss is a climber's term, reflecting a disdain for the quality of the material that one happens to be climbing.
There's plenty of chaff, and this is
University
really
of
good.
Arizona archaeologist Mark Aldendorfer, a National Geographic grantee, and Nepali archaeologist Sukra Sagar Shrestha hope to determine how old the caves are.
It's going to allow us to actually date the application of that mud and chaff. This is really a good thing to find.
Their first cave dry run a success, they're ready to move on to Lomantang, where they seek permission from the king to rescue the ancient library.
We don't get to meet kings every day, and this Raja's lineage has been on the throne ruling since the 14th century, and there's been an unbroken lineage ever since. So this is not an everyday occurrence. I was asking His Majesty about the best way of preserving the materials that are in the caves, and whether it's best, in his opinion, that they should be left there or should they be removed. And what he suggested is that this is something that should be left entirely up to the people of the kingdom to decide.
They also need permission from the people's Buddhist spiritual leader, the Kempo.
अर्कै मिटिङ थियो हैन लामाहरु मैले त्यो मिटिङमा पनि कुरा राखेको थियो हाम्रो ब्रोडजीहरुको ग्रुप ठुलो छ हैन एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्टहरु त्यही कारणले अब हाम्रो 3 जना लामा त्यहाँ तपाईहरु सँगै त्यो मद्दतको लागि पठाउने उद्देश्य राखेको छु.
Lamas are spiritual teachers, and the Kempo thinks the team will need their protection because the place they're going to is dangerous. The cave where they found the texts is called Marjong, and it has long been associated with a religion called Bun, the indigenous faith of Tibet. Bun was the dominant religion of the region for thousands of years, until Buddhism wiped out nearly all evidence of it. Marjong was the site of a legendary battle between faiths, and the locals believe the site is haunted.
There are some divinities who are potentially harmful, but as long as we approach these places with a good attitude, not to steal things, not to damage the place, and as long as the appropriate ceremonies are performed, there will be no harm in removing the manuscript from the cave.
To appease the divinities, the lamas perform a puja, a ceremonial offering. For the team, this site will be home for several days until all the folios can be safely removed from the eroding cave. Pete's hope is that the manuscripts still remain in the cave. Unexpected company arrives over the hill. It's the Lomantang Youth Club, a newly formed political group. They immediately challenge the authority of the team to enter the caves and accuse them of attempting to steal the texts.
He's saying that we don't need to do a detailed inventory, photographic inventory of the contents of the cave. They can do that themselves and put them up on the net. That's one of the issues.
The youth club wants to keep the manuscripts under their control. They believe selling the ancient scripts on the internet could bring good money.
They call themselves the Youth Club, but these people are a bunch of troublemakers. They're really only a political action committee. They have a political agenda. They're looking for money. They're looking for power and control.
The youth club questions the presence of the Bunpo Lamas, whom Charles Ramble invited to help decipher the texts, which Charles believes are Bun. They are Bun scholars, but the locals are Buddhist, and they don't want Bunpo Lamas on their turf. The lamas leave to seek help from the Khenpo's monastery. And so the age-old persecution of a faith continues. Mustang may be mostly Buddhist, but its roots are Bun. It took 1100 years for Buddhism to reach the Himalayas. The story of the faith begins in the 6th century BC, when a prince named Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, was born in southern Nepal. He was raised in luxury. When he reached the age of 29, he stepped out of his palace for the first time. What he saw changed his life forever. The sick, the poor, and the aging. He renounced his privileged life, and for 6 years he meditated and came to realize that all things in life are impermanent, caught in the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. At the age of 35, he became the Lord Buddha, the Enlightened One. The Buddha was not the first to teach the path to enlightenment. Surprisingly, his life story mirrors that of another teacher. According to those who follow the Bun faith, the Bun Po, thousands of years before the Buddha, a prince named Tonpa Shenrab became disillusioned by the wealth around him and renounced his privileged life. He launched the Bun faith, whose influence reached from Central Asia to China. The Bun Po often say the historical Buddha was simply a reincarnation of the even earlier Tonpa Shenrab. Because Bun grew out of an animistic and shamanistic tradition, the few people who still practice it are often mistrusted, mistaken as practitioners of a kind of black magic. As a result, today the Bun religion is perceived a malevolent force by many.
There's a great deal of misunderstanding, particularly among Buddhists, about what Bun is. They still have this idea that Bun was some kind of benighted dark religion that had to be effaced.
It was the mythical actions of one great figure that brought about the triumph of Buddhism over Bun. 1300 years ago, when Bun was the dominant faith of Mustang, a great teacher, Guru Rinpoche, traveled through the region preaching the sermons of Buddhism. His following was unprecedented, and he left an indelible mark on the Himalayas. It was here in Mustang where he established the first Tibetan Buddhist monastery. Mustang was the site of his historic slaying of a demoness who represented the Bun forces resisting Buddhism.
Guru Rinpoche catches the demoness and disembowels her, tears her to pieces. And this is why when you see blue striations in the rocks, this is the liver of the demoness that was flung into the cliff. You'll see very red streaks of rock. This, of course, is the blood of the demoness. There are little fragments of her liver all over the place. The Buddhists themselves associate the demoness with the indigenous dark forces which they regard as being Bun.
It was a metaphorical spilling of the blood of the Bun Po. The legacy of that conflict is still palpable at Marjong today. Lamas return after having met with the Khenpo, and whether they are Bun Po or Buddhist, the decision is unanimous. The researchers must be allowed into the caves to remove and document what's there. Now, it's a matter of convincing the youth club to back down. The monastic tradition of debate ensues. The youth club agrees to allow the team to go up, but just to have a look.
I've never worn a harness before. I've never climbed before. Right leg, left leg?
Left leg through there. Grab the red slings, the green slings, any of those are fixed.
Those rocks are fairly secure, are they?
They're pretty secure, actually.
Charles has a deep-rooted fear of heights. He has the athletic ability, but irrational fear can render a person unstable on his feet.
I just love these narrow ledges.
Fear aside, this is not easy climbing.
And just step back and behind. There you go. Some of that rock right on the surface is loose.
Blaze on, Renan. Blaze on. Okay, Charles. Facing into the rock now, facing in. There you go, left foot first. Renan will start giving you information on what's on the other side. Right hand on the yellow rock by your thigh there. Good, looking great. Good job, Charles. Excellent.
Thousands of sacred folios, hand-inked centuries ago by monks.
This is an absolutely extraordinary collection. With a bit of luck, we'll know something of the diversity of the literature that's been stacked up in here. Ideally, we get the last page of this lot, and that'll tell us who wrote it, why it was written, who paid for it. We're not going to find it.
The last page, the key to everything in the collection, is called a colophon, and it is the needle in this haystack.
But in the meantime, somebody's gone through the whole lot, rifling them, probably for illuminated folios, which are worth something on the commercial market.
The illuminations, the original paintings found on many of the texts, are small masterpieces lying in centuries-old pigeon droppings.
This is a nice one, Charles, right here, the first house.
Oh, lovely. This is Dompa Shenrab Shuk. So here sits Dompa Shenrab. So this is the main enlightenment, the founder of the Burman religion.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is, it's lovely. This is the end of the 6th volume.
That's the hardest.
Yeah.
Love this.
Pages 55 and 56. So this is the kind of thing I'm really after. Because this is either the colophon of the text or it's some kind of document.
They've found the colophon.
This is the key to, with a bit of luck, it might give the date. It should give the place, and it should name the patron. And I just pray that the name of the patron is not on the missing part of the text.
I'm trying to impress upon the youth group that this room in just a year has become in much worse condition, and the documents have suffered and been compromised as a result of it. So everyone up here, whether they're from the US or from Great Britain or from the youth group, are hoping that some agreement can be made today about rescuing these documents.
After 2 hours of scanning through texts, Charles concludes that this isn't a random collection.
We have this opportunity that we wouldn't have had years ago to ship a game and then really collaborate with people outside the studio to figure out, like, what is the best version of that?
Honestly, yeah, like, we're building something the community has been asking for, and it's accumulation of everything that we believe the game needs to be.
The upside to that is we're not holding anything back.
All the feedback we've heard for the last year is, this is it, it's in Forsaken.
We want this release to have a different tone and a different vibe.
We sort of just embrace that Western revenge vibe.
You're going to a darker place. You're going to take on a different role as a Guardian.
A barren landscape with, like, the asteroid vibe with, like, tumbleweeds. And, I mean, that just sounded cool.
Grit, man. Want to bring the dirt back.
And what better way to start a story than to start it with a prison break?
Right.
Cade's been filling this prison with bad guys that are really bad. And so when it breaks, things can happen to all the world.
First place you're going to go to is the Tangled Shore, which is a new part of the reef that you've never seen before.
That's right, my friend.
It's a collection of lashed together asteroids and rocks out in the asteroid
It's
belt.
very otherworldly, and it's full of
pirates and assassins and
bad guys.
It's become a lawless place. It truly is a frontier. It's completely taken over.
The most malevolent force there is the Scorn. They're very aggressive. They're always going to charge and push you.
The Barons are the top dogs in the Scorn, and each one has gone back and committed nefarious crimes.
I think of it as the reverse Magnificent Seven, like the worst of the worst criminals. You are hunting down these different Barons. In fact, they're called Baron hunts. So one Baron is a sniper, and you have a sniper versus sniper battle with them. Another Baron is this big, giant, hulking melee character.
One of the things we're most excited about is the new weapon system.
Hey, if you like Destiny 2, great, play that way. But if you like Destiny 1, great, play that way. But if you're crazy, why not 3 shotguns, right? Just for the fun of it.
We need to have as many ways as possible, and then we need to have people fighting about it. Like, no, man, you f***ed up, you're taking the wrong weapons, or can I say
So randomals are coming back. Every single weapon is going to feel different when it drops. And we're improving the mod system, so you can customize your weapon the way you want it.
We've got a whole new masterwork style system coming together where you actually are able to kind of move your levels up over time. And so there's investment back on the weapons again. New supers, yeah, crazy new supers.
What's your favorite?
Fire knives are awesome, which is a different take on Golden Gun.
We took a lot of inspiration from Rise of Iron, cast that thing. You got a huge hammer now, and you slam that thing down, and it sends out this fire in front of you that then creates a fire tornado. We gotta take it to the next level, you know?
the idea that anyone who plays, however they play, they're going to have some new way to engage?
Yeah.
I'm in love with the new Void Warlock. Teleportation that's like super anime, just like
We've been having great games with the Arc Warlock.
You basically cast this thing, he pulls back. Yeah, and it's gonna break the game, and I think that's amazing, yeah. You know?
We also wanted a new weapon type that felt meaningful, so we came up with a bow and arrow, which seems kind of crazy, but when you use it, you feel like godlike.
It is utilitarian, it's fantastical, it's also sci-fi.
So we have a short-range bow, we have a medium-range bow, we have a long-range bow. We built this guy, which is like supposed to be super techy.
You're like, why would you ever choose a bow in a game that has an automatic, machine gun? But boy, it's deadly.
I mean, that's a nice machine gun you got there, buddy, but right, and then it's done.
The biggest thing for me going into production on this game was like a new way to play, a new thing to do that is new to Destiny.
Let's see what we've got.
We want to be able to give players what they want, but also surprise them.
Gambit is a brand new mode.
Destiny begs to marry PvE and PvP together.
It's like adding bacon to peanut butter and jelly.
You start off being able to see the other team that you're going to compete against, so you can taunt each other, you can emote.
Each team is in their own separate arena, and they're being assaulted by combatants.
They're dropping motes for you to collect, you bank them.
When you put them in your bank, you're going to send a blocker over to the other side. That locks their bank down. They can't put motes into it until they take out that blocker. Filling up your bank with the motes is how you summon your primeval. You burn it down, that's it, round's over. The interesting part is that we allow one person from your team to go over to the other side and physically invade. I mean, I've seen people that just hate PvP. Like, the first time they invade and they get multiple kills, they'll come back and they'll be like, suck it! It's awesome.
We leave the raid team alone. I mean, if you can't tell, like, we just kind of let them do their own thing. But
we have Joe over there.
For this next raid, we wanted to get back to the epic adventure where you're going out to slay a big monster again. This raid has more bosses than any raid we've ever had before, and we're really excited to get players in there.
The raid is actually about more than just the raid. It's about the Dreaming City, the place that the raid exists. And it's an in-game destination that we've never done before.
It's the awoken homeland.
I could talk about the Dreaming City for hours. It's like if the Vault of Glass and Dreadnought had a baby.
If they were like twins.
Or yeah, that's actually more accurate.
Yeah, they're like twins. Yeah,
You had twins, and then you took those twins and you put them on the doorstep of Peter Jackson, raised them as his own, and then that's the Dreaming City.
It is magical and weird and mysterious.
It's designed to be a destination that has puzzles that you need to solve.
A lot of hidden corners, lots of passageways that might not seem to exist the first time.
And the raiders, they affect this destination. They change it for everyone.
It's like this cyclical endgame place where there's just secrets and different activities that unveil over time.
So the Dreaming City that you see at launch is not going to be the same Dreaming City 2-3 weeks later.
So with every design decision we made for the Forsaken, like the first thing we ask is how will the community react to this?
Players want their investment in Destiny to matter, and they want to be able to see that reflected in the content.
We knew we wanted to do something for the collectors in our game, so we built a feature called the Collections. It's a way for you to track all the items that you can go out and acquire.
There's so much gear in our game. There are 2,000 items you can get. Go get them.
You can look at sets and you can say, I haven't filled out this set. What do I have to do to go get it?
If I want to find like how many guns in the world, I can actually go look now.
We also had a triumphs thing, which is just acknowledging your achievement.
It like ties into records, it ties into lore.
It's a thing that can help you drive like, hey, I want to do that. And if I do those things, I can get a title. Like I can have a title floating over my name that says that I'm a god or whatever. Not me, but like you.
We want Forsaken to feel like a game that never ends. So we're going to reinforce the hobby and make the experience something that can be played night over night.
We're changing the weapon slots. We're changing how the pursuits work. We're adding new features like the collections and the triumphs. We built Gambit.
We've got a whole bunch of new weapons to chase, exotics that are really powerful.
We have Lisa focusing on some sweet new exotic armor. Maybe we got overboard, like dialed it too high.
Or to go out there and collect in the world, exotic armor pieces to go out there and hunt.
We're working on armor perks, random rolls, new mod system, new subclass paths.
We're making Forsaken for people who love Destiny.
Making a game that we can all love. That is the goal. That's what we're going to constantly be pushing towards, always.
Everything we're building is through that lens.